You are listening to the global network of podcasters dedicated to the pharmacy profession. Welcome to the Pharmacy Podcast Network.
The Executive Dose, hosted by Stephen Beckman.
Hey, this is a special episode. This is the new podcast. If you read the press release, I was very excited to announce this. We have a podcast that I've been wanting to do for quite some time. And you can't do these unless you really have people that can backfill the intelligence that's necessary to pull it off. That's why people like Jenna Quinn with the Pediatric Pharmacist Review is perfect, and Tamara Rugels and the team at Pain Pod with Mark Garofoli. So when we look to insights, when we're trying to build a show all about the pharmaceutical leadership issues that that ecosystem is part of our environment as healthcare providers and pharmacists out there, linking them together, the Executive Dose is a brand new podcast, part of the Pharmacy Podcast Network. And I'd like to welcome our host to the show, Stephen Beckman.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here, Todd. It's a long time in coming. I think not only did you want to do this, but I think this is something that I felt compelled to do, being in the industry for a long time and knowing that we have to continue to do things better.
Yeah, and I really appreciate it because this takes up a lot of time. People that do anything right, back when I was blogging, a blog was taking me research, it was taking me follow-up. If I had quotes from people that were involved in it, there's a lot of staging. So the whole purpose of what we do at the PPN is surround you with all of the administration and this kind of recording and the marketing and the leveraging and then taking your voice and some of your ideas and starting connecting them to our listeners and get listeners to start feeding back to us what we might be missing. So a shout out to our listeners and understanding what the Executive Dose is really about. I'm going to ask you, Stephen, though, from your perspective as our host, what is the Executive Dose about?
Well, I think when we really think to your point about the ecosystem in healthcare, it really is all interdependent. It starts with, on our side of things, with API and developing drugs and approving drugs and then making them available. On the delivery side or the professional healthcare side, it's managing those patients, diagnosing, treating, supporting, but it all has to come together. And ultimately, we're all linked because, we provide the products that the physicians determine are appropriate for patients. They have to go through the system and ultimately down to the pharmacist, and the pharmacist has to be able to deliver that medicine to the patients and also be that advocate for them and a go-between doctors sometimes and so forth. So when you really think about it, the things that are impacting us on the manufacturing side or the pharmaceutical side can trickle down through that ecosystem or through that interdependency. So I think one of the things that we want to bring light to is we want to bring a bunch of different people on to talk about the topics that affect us all. But I don't think everybody knows why they affect us or how it affects us. How does it affect a manufacturer different from a provider, from a payer, from a pharmacist, and then ultimately the patient? So for me, it was about raising the awareness and getting everybody a little bit closer to each other. We're not this big bad pharmaceutical industry, right, or we're not this or that. So we want pharmacists in particular through this platform to understand some of the critical thinking and some of the challenges both that might be happening internally within our organizations or the outside pressures that are impacting us, and how's that all ultimately flow down with the goal then maybe through this kind of dialogue, we'll have a greater appreciation for everybody's needs, issues, and challenges. And from that, we can find some solutions. And it starts maybe with just a better understanding or basic understanding of some of the things, because I'm sure there's a lot of misperceptions. I know there's a lot of misperceptions that we have sometimes of our customers and how things work or what things are really impacting them. And I want to learn. And I want our organization and other organizations to be able to learn and use that institutional knowledge better than we are today. So hopefully what executive dose will be about, it'll be a dialogue that will open up between manufacturers all the way down to pharmacists. And in that dialogue and insight, we'll all be in a better place. We'll all be more creative. We'll all have a greater appreciation for the strengths and challenges. And together we'll work better. And ultimately, that's what we want to do. In our organization at YARAL, one of the things that we have made a primary focus of what we do is really the pharmacy channel. And for the last year, obviously working with you and other things that we've been doing is to really make sure that the pharmacy channel understands, as a manufacturing organization providing these products down through the system, is that we want to do a better job. And that starts with listening and dialoguing, identifying the things that we want to work on. And then through that, we can do it in a collaborative way. And I always believe if you can do it in a collaborative way, you're going to end up with a better outcome. I tell my team, they probably hear this every week, but I always tell them that individuals can do great things, but teams can do exceptional things. You have to work at it, right? And I believe that ultimately the team is all of us, from provider to pharmacist to patient to payer to PBMs to manufacturers. We're all actually on the same team because we're all trying to deliver quality outcome to the patients that need it, whether it be treatments, or whether it be drug treatment, whether it be mental health, anything that it encompasses. That's what we want to do, is that we want to make the outcome for the patient better. And we use that a lot in our company. And maybe a lot of pharmacists and other people in the ecosystem don't think that we talk that way, but we do. We talk a lot about, as manufacturers, not just selling product, but we talk about how our product is really driving better outcomes. So with physicians, we talk about the therapeutic outcomes in terms of accessibility of products. All those things come in, and I want to do a better job. Our organization wants to do a better job. Hopefully, through all the people we talk to, everybody can end up doing something a little bit better tomorrow than we're doing today.
Yeah, I love the conversations that you already had. I love listening to you and Mark Garofoli talk about pain management and how that applies to the care that pharmacists give. And we're going to get into senior care. We're going to have a special series on sports pharmacy, which is just budding. It's exploding. And the ability to drive change at the collegic level of athletics, or the professional level, or some high school community, getting more care from a pharmacist that's probably in their community, but they have no idea that the pharmacist is capable of it. How did you get started in this? Because I kind of want to shift, for the listener's perspective, a little bit about who is Steve Beckman.
Well, I've been in the industry for more years than I can count. I actually started in the industry back right out of undergrad. And funny enough, I interviewed with any company that would come to campus. I'm a proud graduate of Syracuse University undergrad, so go Orange for all those people that might be listening one day that are Orange men, or maybe future Orange men. And I ended up with 7 job offers from Coca-Cola to Armstrong World Industries, which is flooring, to Chicago Tribune, where I helped put myself through school working at the Syracuse newspapers. And then I also had a couple offers from Merck and Key Pharmaceuticals back in the day. That company has been absorbed through many companies. And I sat down one night and I said, I don't come with a science background, but I have my opportunity to sell syrup or sugar to people. I can sell flooring, or maybe I could do something really good through working in the pharmaceutical industry and helping patients. So a good friend of mine, actually a former college mate of mine who was in the industry, said it was very simple. Either you'll get it or you won't. And so I said, okay, that makes sense. So I picked a job in the industry, and I've been doing it for over 30 years. So I guess I got it.
You did. You got it. So that's just a preface to the executive dose, with how you have had changing experiences from one level to the next. And now we have an opportunity to talk with your boss and bring his insights into the executive dose. And that's going to continue. I'm thinking of other leaders. I'm thinking of politicians. I'm thinking of artificial intelligence, and special guests like we've heard John Nosta, will be on. And so I think this is a very unique podcast, and I think the listeners don't really get, especially in this in the on the network that we're on, Pharmacy Podcast Network. We've never had a podcast like this, so this is an educational piece for us. Think about this: 4,000 episodes in 16 years. The books that I could write from all of the excellence that I've interviewed, the people, you people out there. That's right, I just said you people out there that are just in the pharmaceutical landscape, in the pharmaceutical ecosystem. And so, yeah, I'm excited about this, Stephen.
Yeah, I think, one of the great things is obviously we've identified a number of topics that we like to tackle, and we have a unique group of people that are starting to formulate that are planning to be guests against some of those topics. But I think the other thing, which will be great, is that as some listeners that you have developed and are in your network, we encourage them to reach out and let us know what topics are important to them. Again, as I was saying, we spend a lot of money doing market research, qualitative, quantitative. We talk and we do advisories. But a lot of times we still, we think in that isolation. We take the information, but then we go and synthesize it and determine what we think is the answer. What we want to try to do here is to raise the outcome for everybody. And when I say outcome, it always starts and ends with the patient outcome, that we want to make patients better. But we also have to make sure that the system has a healthy outcome, meaning pharmacists have to be able to be successful. And, in this world, we do not have nonprofit pharmacies. So we do need to make pharmacies profitable. We need to make the system work for everybody in it. We need to make it work for physicians, for pharmacists, for manufacturers, and everybody in between. So, there's a lot of topics that some are very broad and universal, some may be more specific, but I think what we want to try to do is dissect some of these topics in a way that everybody can have a deeper appreciation of how we're looking at them from the different angles, from the manufacturer side down. And again, as I said, when we do that, I think that conversation is going to open the eyes to an aha, or maybe, if nothing else, very simply an appreciation for each other, to the point that we can work better than we are today. Yeah. And I think that's really important.
I thought about you at the Assembia conference, because we were talking about gene and cell therapy and biosimilars, and that is one of the topics that we'll be digging into. A shout out to the market if you're listening and you have interest, or of someone in that realm. We're going to be really rounding out that subject, because that's going to be a big impact in a lot of disease state management.
Yeah, there's no doubt. There's huge topics out there now that are impacting us. Obviously, everything from our new federal government and their approach to tariffs, to pricing equality across the markets now. Obviously, that's a big pressure. There's even topics that are as simple as, I don't know if most people understand, but over 90% of all the API or the pharmaceutical drug product is produced outside the U.S. Most of the manufacturing is outside the U.S. How do we create better stability in all markets, including the U.S.? But how are biosimilars going to continue to evolve and change? How things impact in terms of pricing, and how pricing is impacted across the board by the different players. So, and I don't think a lot of people really fully appreciate the supply chain of product. Right. How it starts at from manufacturing to delivery to distribution, wholesale, down into pharmacy. So I think there's just a plethora of topics that, if we're in the industry, we know, at least, a mile wide and an inch deep, and we want to dive down in some of those topics, because again, I think the cross conversation between different parties on this podcast and how it can relate down will spark commentary that will get us thinking broader and bigger than we are now, because we still have a tendency to do some things in isolation, I believe, especially on the manufacturer side, whether it be on the generic side or the brand side. So there's a lot of topics, even simple things like how they impact, when we think of the U.S. market, we kind of think of the U.S. as a whole, but in many respects, we are now 50 little countries. There's a lot of state regulation and requirements that are very different. Manufacturers have to navigate all that just to actually provide product in the state. So that's just one other little example. But I think we got some really, really great topics, as you mentioned. We really hope people will come and listen and be a part of this. Meaning, as I said, we have a kind of our kickoff thoughts and what's important, but ultimately we'd like to drive it, because maybe pharmacists want to hear from us in terms of their perspectives on the manufacturing industry and how do we do this and what's to come, what's happening, changes at the FDA. Is that going to increase product approvals? How will the generic landscape continue to evolve, including more complex products and obviously biosimilars? How does that impact the brand side? Vice versa. How does that impact investment in new development, especially when you think of topics like rare and orphan disease? It's very challenging to invest a lot of money in a population that's only 20,000 patients. And when you have to go through the same construct of approval, in many cases, there's always fast track with the FDA. There's different things that can help you, but at the end of the day, there's still a lot of burden on the industry at all levels. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what's important to share, is that there's a lot of burden on the manufacturers, and not to say that there's always good players and bad players all the way through the system. So whether it's a pharmaceutical company, a pharmacist, physician, somebody else, there's all stories across the board of people that have been really good and maybe some people that have not been as good, or organizations. I've been doing this for over 30 years, and what's really important to me is do it better. I want to leave the footprint of the companies I've worked with in the past, both on the brand, because I've spent half my career on the brand side and half my career on the generic side. So I've been able to really see both sides of the world. But I think most people in this business, again, whether you're a provider or whether you're a manufacturer, for the most part, I think we get in it because of what I said to you when I started. When I had a choice to choose from 7 different companies, I choose a company that I felt that my work would mean something more. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what we want to do. So if we can leave a little unique mark by bringing executives in our world closer to pharmacists and other providers, to open up a dialogue on important topics, and from that we can find solutions, then I'll be very happy and very excited to be a part of what we're trying to do here. Excellent.
Well, Steve Beckman Stephen's on LinkedIn, so you'll have a link in the show notes that you can connect with Stephen. Also, send us a message, as Stephen suggested, if you have ideas for future episodes of the Executive Dose. And I don't think I'm forgetting anything else. I know that you're going to be traveling to several conferences. We hope to meet up with people at national conferences. If you're going to be present at anything, please, reach out to us. We'll let you know which ones we're actually going to this year. I know that you and I are going to be going to NACDS, TSE, Total Store Expo, and then
we'll also be doing HDA and NACDS. These are one of the things, although I have the title of CEO, I kind of still think of myself as the director of marketing and the director of sales. So I try to get out to all these meetings as best I can, because I think at the end of the day, you have to practice what you preach. And if I say we got to listen, then I got to make myself available to listen. Maybe the podcast, I'll be doing more talking than listening, but maybe that balances out 50-50. So we're very, very excited to work with you. You have built a great network, a great resource to pharmacists. We couldn't think of a better platform to try to create something of value. And we will give it our best shot to do just that.
Thank you so much. Stephen Beckman, new host of the Executive Dose. You heard it here on the Pharmacy Podcast Network. We thank you so much for listening on all platforms. Please subscribe, Apple, Spotify, or anywhere that you listen to podcasts. And once again, let us know how we're doing and what you'd like to listen to. Appreciate you listening to the Executive Dose.
Hey, this is Stephen Beckman, host of Executive Dose. Come follow me on LinkedIn. Look forward to hearing from you.